In-class course corrections are necessary to ensure a course is effective. Daily collection and analysis for an ongoing course should be a normal practice. There are many different approaches to the in-course assessments, but in all, data should be gathered to assess the students' performances. Student issues should be addressed in a timely fashion, and it is the educator's responsibility to handle issues before they can become a problem. There should always be opportunities to contact any student who is falling behind to alert him to catching up. Contacting the student also demonstrates the educator's investment into the student's learning and reminds the student that there are expectations from the educator. The target audience are 8th grade students taking a science course. The course focuses on the topics of forces and motion. Students have a variety of activities and formal and informal assessments that are guided by next generation science standards. Students are 13 to 14 years old, and 98% of the population has access to a computer at home. Many students utilize their cell phones to access the course. Students have deadlines for assignments. Assignments are listed on the website and on the calendar. Students are given reminders about due dates of assignments through announcements. At the beginning of the course, students are guided through the process of adjusting their personal settings of the course through a screencast video. Through the settings, it is highly encouraged that students set up reminders of upcoming assignments that they can then receive notifications on their phones. Twice a week, I'm available for a live chat. Once a week, I will teach a new topic. On the other day, I am available for questions, reteaching a lesson, or through course feedback, whatever the students need to support their learning. Students are expected to watch, attend both sessions. The scenario presented to us is as follows. You review participation in grading analytics at the halfway point of a course you designed and are now teaching. You notice 2 students rarely participate in the course activities. When they do participate, most of their results are below average. Ultimately, the students are not engaged, and that's a problem that needs to be remedied immediately. Chris is one of the students in the scenario. He is 13 years old and will not turn 14 until his second month into high school. His educational history is a bit vague, and communication with mom reveals scores for special education eligibility may not be up to 8. His mother is young, with not only Chris to raise by herself, but his toddler and 3rd grader sisters. Chris has expressed extreme interest in skateboarding and enjoys hanging out with friends. According to the analytics gathered from the LMS, Chris spends a large amount of time completing warm-up, check-in assessments. He says he fell asleep one time, but is taking the assessments in the middle of the day. His work completion, assignment accuracy, and formal assessment scores are well below average. The data shows Chris is not visiting site pages regularly, and he does not utilize class resources. Chris's math skills are low, and he is in a supported math class. He may have trouble reading through lengthy math problems and could struggle with understanding what the question is asking him. When it comes to projects, he simply doesn't do it. He may not find relevancy or motivation to complete the task, for he does not even attempt the project. Again, he may not understand what is expected of him. In regards to his discussion board activity, his completion is inconsistent. His responses are short, and he fails to fully answer the question. He excessively misuses grammar and spelling. He could have trouble organizing his thoughts, could not be reading or understanding directions, and may be uncomfortable putting thoughts out into a public place where he may feel judged. Another student in the scenario is Jacob. He is 14 years old and lives with both of his parents and younger sister. He is classified as a GATE student and has taken 2 years of Project Lead the Way courses. He takes Chinese lessons after school and is actively involved in Science Olympiad, one of the largest K-12 STEM organizations in the country. The analytics from the LMS show that Jacob does participate in the lessons, but he never rewatches any of them. He does not use any of the class resources to accomplish the objectives, but he does not need the extra support. His assignments are completed with 100% accuracy, but he does not always fully follow the instructions. Much of the topic covered with Forces in Motion involves math, and Jacob is in an accelerated math course. He thinks showing his work is a waste of time, since he can complete much of the math in his head. His discussion board posts are short, yet the responses reveal higher order thinking skills. He posts most of the time. During a design and engineering lab, Jacob's work was well above average, demonstrating that when he is passionate about what he is learning, effort and production is much higher. To improve the student's learning experience, in-course corrections should be put into place. One of the first steps to address the student's below average results is to directly contact the students. The students should be contacted as soon as their low scores in participation is noticed. Depending on the severity of the concern, the communication can be in the form of emails or a phone call. Chris would more likely benefit from a face-to-face video call, along with a phone call home. Jacob may not need the phone call. Whichever method is utilized, I am responsible for voicing my concern with their performance. The students will be notified that they are required to take a survey with the intention of getting to know better what they know. I will encourage the students to be honest, with questions to answer like, what do you understand the most? And what do you need help with the most? All students will participate so as to evaluate the course while homing in on what can effectively help these particular students. I will express that it is okay to feel uncomfortable with the discussion board posts. I will ask the students to watch a video concerning the math topics. It has a comical reference to a lobster and might help put posting comments online in perspective. I will ensure the student knows he is not the only one that feels uncomfortable or is struggling. We just need to figure out a way for him to learn better together. Increasing relevancy can be a way to get the students more engaged. According to Benvenuti, 2009, if the students do not perceive that the teaching in the course are useful, important, and interesting to them, they will be less invested and have less intrinsic motivation. The students will be explained to why certain expectations are asked of them and asked what they want to get out of the course. Student 2 strives for success, and STEM skills are considered valuable for economic progress and are highly valued. To increase relevancy for student 1, I could show him a few skateboarding simulations that incorporate speed and acceleration. Throughout the course, my belief in all student success needs to be vocalized. The struggling students need to be reminded about the supports available within the course. Jacob can be reminded that he can expand his knowledge through tapping into the resources, and Chris needs to ensure that he begins and continues to use them. The weekly lessons are necessary for understanding, and all resources can be accessed at any time. The lessons can be watched as many times as needed. According to Chatterjee, 2005, giving more supports to reading and math have had a positive effect on high poverty students' scores. If struggling with the math component of the course, utilize the videos. The speed triangle should be written on every task, and the students will be reminded to use the Q&A discussion board. If struggling, the student can benefit from seeing that he's not alone and that other students have similar confusion or questions. Chris needs the opportunity to catch up, and a decrease in workload without reducing content knowledge may need to be considered. Chris should also be reminded that his IEP allows him an extra day of time, which he can utilize but not abuse. This can encourage him to complete assignments, even if they were a little bit late. The struggling students will be notified and expected that they will video conference with me once a week, in addition to the 2 days they are already required to participate in online lectures. The student can choose the day and time, although needed to be set up at the beginning of the week, can change from week to week according to the student's schedules. Students will be reminded of the expectations of the course, in which use of the resources is required, and following instructions practices a skill. Increasing interactions with the learner can show the student that I am invested in them and their learning. I am here to support them, and we can create a more comfortable learning environment in which they can be successful. Collaboration focuses on the individual learning, but through social connectedness. Students are responsible for creating and consuming content. Students can collaboratively generate knowledge and tasks together, and increased interaction is needed for struggling students. Tools must be provided to increase interactivity, and these tools should be familiar to the audience. I should point Chris in the direction of working with someone who shares his interests and is more of a leader. Jacob and fellow students could benefit from him creating his own videos on how to explain content to peers. Sometimes the learner just needs explanations in different ways or would respond better to a peer than a teacher. By engaging in a type of Blignot and Trollope's form of communication, opportunities for learner-to-learner interactions can lead to authentic learning. As the designer and educator, I am responsible for facilitating the students' knowledge, construction, and learning. Because this is an 8th grade class, keeping an open line of communication with parents is essential to student success. As always, I need to remain reflective as to whether instructions and expectations are clearly expressed and understood. The design methodology of the course is based off Keller's ARCS theory, in which each task asked of the students to complete aligns with this theory. Best practices must be adhered to, and all content must match the intended models of engagement. Constant course assessment and evaluation is necessary. As the educator, I need to reach out to all the students to enhance their learning. If design occurs from the beginning, the course will promote the intended engagements, supporting the idea that assessment and evaluation begin and end with instructional design.